Hey, welcome to the Hutchison House. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Leo Marlene, and that's a true story. What else is a true story? Mainstream media is just absolutely losing their minds. We could talk about this all day long, right? Nicole Wallace, or should I say Nicole Grimace Wallace, is now spinning out. They're all trying to make it like Trump is casting a television show. They're so mad over The Apprentice. They can't get over the fact that this man has been successful in many areas. They can't get over the fact that he is a successful entertainer, speaker, businessman, builder, politician. They hate that because in their mind, you have to follow in their footsteps. See, you have to remember they want full control. You're not allowed to think outside the box. You're not allowed to do anything different. Otherwise, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a sexist. We know the drill. But let's check in with Nicole Grimace Wallace and see what she says about Hegseth, because they actually love this stuff. They love it. It's really turning into a soap opera, right? Politics has become better than any TV. I mean, when did politics get so good? Well, I know. When Trump came into town and exposed all the corruption. Isn't it fun? Let's watch.
Once again, in a fluid situation, covering what is day 4 of the former Fox News weekend morning show anchor's attempt to win over skeptical Senate Republicans. At least 6 of them, according to NBC News' reporting, are, quote, not comfortable supporting his bid to lead the Pentagon, putting Hegseth's candidacy, quote, in peril. Senator Joni Ernst, who is viewed as central to all of this, today confirmed that she is, as of today, not a yes on his confirmation.
Will you support his nomination?
Well, I did have a very long, lengthy discussion with Pete yesterday, and I do appreciate his service to the nation. I also am a combat veteran. So we talked about a number of those issues, and we will continue with the vetting process. I think that is incredibly important. Again, all I'm saying is we had a very frank and productive discussion, and I know that we will continue to have conversation in the upcoming months.
It doesn't sound on your answer that you've gotten to a yes. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. And if that is the case, it sounds to me as if the hearing will be critical for his nomination. Am I right about that?
I think you are right.
In fact, the nomination is so much in peril that we are monitoring this closely. We will be for the next 2 hours for any sign that Hegseth's status as Trump's first choice to run the Pentagon could change. Or, as has been widely reported, that Donald Trump has changed his mind and tapped one of his alternates, someone like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who, according to 4 sources, Trump is already, quote, in advanced talks with about taking the job. So far, Hegseth's attempt to win over key Senate Republicans is not going very well. Case in point, as we showed you, Joni Ernst, who is the first female combat veteran elected to the Senate and a vocal advocate for survivors of military sexual trauma. Here's more of what she had to say after meeting with Hegseth yesterday.
Support. Did he ask for your vote? In that case, you said he brought up some of the allegations against him. Did Hegseth bring up any of these things?
It was a very thorough conversation.
Frank and thorough conversation. And as Politico reports, a no from Senator Joni Ernst may be enough to end Hegseth's bid altogether. So we'll keep watching her. This is that reporting, though. Quote, when it comes to Pete Hegseth's bid to be the next Pentagon chief, each senator gets a vote. But one vote matters more than the others. Hegseth can afford to lose only 3 Republican votes in the Senate before his nomination would fall apart, assuming Democrats remain unanimously opposed. It is unclear how many others would take her cue, but her status as the Senate's first female combat veteran and track record on the issue of military sexual assault gives her added influence and credibility. But you do have to hand it to Hegseth. He says he's still going for it, full steam ahead.
Do you feel like you're making progress in these meetings?
Great meetings. Appreciate the process. Senators give great advice, and this is how the process works. It's not going to be tried out here. It's going to be discussed inside the offices, how we rebuild our military, put the warfighters first. That's what President Trump has asked me to do, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Are there any circumstances where you would withdraw from this process?
I'm here with the support of President Donald Trump. As long as he supports me, which he told me this morning, I'll be here.
And we know Donald Trump supports people like Pete Hegseth in these situations 100% of the time. right up until he does not at all. Shortly before we came on the air, Pete Hegseth emerged from his meetings with Senate Republicans on Capitol Hill. Here's more of what he had to say.
Grimace Wallace. Look, he supports him until he does not. Wow, that was a poignant point, wasn't it? So profound. You do something until you don't. Weird, Nicole. How does that work? Of course, they're all over Hegseth. They don't like that Trump is picking people. They don't like that he's making history and picking his cabinet so early. He's putting people in place because, see, he's a businessman and he's smart and he knows that he's already had 2 assassination attempts. Prayers for Donald Trump. Say prayers for Donald Trump right now. If you believe in God, say prayers. Praise God that this man is in position to help America. But he's so smart because he's already putting people in position, getting ready so that the minute he gets inaugurated, everybody, it's go time. And he knows that. Whereas other presidents are like, oh, it's vacation time and we're just going to hang out. Not Trump. Trump is like, let's get it moving. We got to help save America like yesterday, but let's start right this minute. He doesn't waste any time and they hate that. They love making fun of the fact that he's picking amazing people. Now, some of them do have sordid pasts, like many of us do. Hegseth, he had a problem with alcohol. A lot of people have. Kamala has a problem, it seems like, with alcohol right now, and everyone was just all on board with her. They didn't even stop her from leaving that drunk Thanksgiving message. It's very, very strange. But somebody who's recovered and somebody who looks like him, Hegseth, they really don't like that. They don't like that much at all. If you're receiving value from this video, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. If you're feeling extra generous, share, comment. And hey, even buy me a cup of coffee because I love coffee. The link is in my bio. Thank you. It was a little strange with his mom and that email that leaked in 2018. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it was all about how she was disappointed in him and saying that he's a womanizer and different things like that because she was really upset that he was getting divorced. And she's already retracted those statements saying, I was in the heat of the moment. And of course, the View yesterday had to go all up in arms about it. Just silly. But they're all upset because they're like, well, why would his mom say that? Well, a mom is allowed to be upset or disappointed. And a mom also can say things in the heat of the moment that they don't mean. I mean, any parent, I think, can attest to saying things that they don't really mean in the heat of the moment. Now, maybe he wasn't the best in the past, but does that have any, as far as being with multiple women or something? I don't know. Possibly, right? There's a lot of people like that. I've known a lot of people like that in my life, unfortunately, but it's just the way of the world. A lot of times people don't make good decisions. I know I haven't made some good decisions that I'm proud of at times, but like he says, it's a redemption story. Regardless, it's a redemption story, and he's done a lot for the country. Do you think that he'd make a good Secretary of Defense? Let's hear Hegseth and what he has to say about his redemption.
I'm a different man than I was years ago, and that's a redemption story that I think a lot of Americans appreciate. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group, none of you, not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change.
Pete Hegseth, in his own words, on a redemption tour. It's where we start today with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. With me at the table, NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joins us.
It must be so nice to be Nicole Wallace, Nicole Grimace Wallace, who's just above everybody and everything, and she can just grimace all day long, right? I mean, that must be a really nice position to be in, to never make any mistakes and to just completely talk down to everybody all day long. I mean, what a position Nicole Wallace has in life, isn't it? Isn't it amazing?
And Democratic strategist and professor at Columbia University, MSNBC political analyst Basil Smikle's here. Also joining us, former Republican Congressman, MSNBC political analyst David Jolly's here. Vaughn Hilliard. There are a lot of things about Pete Hegseth that Trump likes, the TV persona being one of them.
They hate the fact that these people also happen to be not only capable, smart, but also good looking. I think that really irritates them in many ways. It's kind of funny to watch. But they also forget about Ronald Reagan, right? Whenever they keep saying they're just TV personalities, they're just TV personalities. Did you remember when an actor, an actual actor, I mean, all politicians are actors, I'm really beginning to realize, but an actual Hollywood actor was president of the United States? That was Ronald Reagan. Nicole, grimace. Do you forget about that? So this whole idea of like, they're just personality, TV personality, they got to drop that, but they're going to run with that probably for 4 years, right? Because they hate that these are smart, capable, and happen to be good looking people.
The accounts as recently as 1 month ago from our colleagues from our NBC News colleagues reporting from 10 sources, current and former employees of Fox News, about him being drunk and smelling of alcohol until moments before he went on the air.
That's something that Donald Trump doesn't like. And I think that this is
I think they might have confused that with Kamala. Kamala, I think, was drunk at almost all her rallies. If she wasn't, something's really wrong with her, because, I mean, it was weird. Sometimes she looked all coked up, and other times she's like, you know, the Thanksgiving drunk. So look, Hegseth has admitted that he had, you know, a past. They all forgive, you know, Hunter Biden for smoking crack, for having child porn on his laptop, for having embezzlement, for having, I mean, it's just amazing. But somebody who had in their private life, they weren't doing relations like Hunter Biden was with the world under the Biden brand. And this is before he's in a position of being a Secretary of Defense anyway. Look at her. Look at Grimace Wallace. Let's check her out.
The conversation that should be around Donald Trump's judgment. Let's be very clear. This isn't about Pete Hegseth to a great degree. This is about Donald Trump making decisions from his gut, in haste, without consultation, without FBI background checks. Donald Trump feels like he won this election, and the American people told him that he should move forward and proceed with the band of brothers who he believes he can best run this administration through. And
they also like to push this rhetoric of the toxic masculinity and the band of brothers and all this stuff. No, he does. He goes off of his gut and he makes quick decisions. That's what we need in a president. That's what makes a good entrepreneur. That's what makes a good businessman. That's why Kamala lost, because she can't make decisions on the fly. She doesn't make good, solid decisions. And we all know probably she wasn't having to make the decisions anyway. Her puppeteers were making the decisions for her. That's another reason why they hate Donald Trump, because he actually does make decisions. He is a man that knows how to move forward and get things done at a quick rate too. I mean, the way that this cabinet is coming together, he hasn't even been inaugurated and he's getting his entire cabinet together. This is historical. Of course they hate that. Megyn Kelly talks very highly of Hegseth, and she's known him for years. We'll look at that in a moment as well. But they're going to continue with the rhetoric of the band of brothers and the toxic masculinity, because they can't handle that these people are good looking, in shape, you know, capable. I think that that's the real issue. And this isn't a Donald Trump issue. This is an American issue that we need to save America. America is drowning, and these grimacy elitists seem to not care. Like, they don't care. They're just behind their gated fences and their gated houses, and they don't care about, you know, if they spend $10 on milk, and it's no big deal. For us peasant folks, it is a big deal. Okay. So yeah, if it requires a band of strong men and we need to bring some strong men back and a strong masculine presence, I'm all for that. That's what's going to protect us. I don't need somebody who's like, well, geez, I don't know. And I hate strong men. I mean, that's been the problem. We do need strong men. We need strong women. We need strong people. We need people who don't just sit there and grimace. And the reason why he's not doing FBI checks is because the FBI has been crooked. You know what the FBI is going to do. They're just going to be working for the propaganda machine. And that's why this whole thing has to be shaken up, the whole entire system. And that is what Donald Trump is doing.
And that's exactly what Donald Trump did in those first 2 weeks, filling out this cabinet with people like Pete Hegseth, though, with very little outside counsel. And frankly, it was in that 48 hours leading up to the decision to nominate Pete Hegseth that I was having conversations with sources.
I love how they don't talk to Donald Trump, and yet they always think that they know what he's thinking. They know who he's counseled, who he's talked to. How would you know all this information if you don't ever talk to the man? You have no idea who he's counseling. You have no idea what's going on in Donald Trump's head, but they think they do because they have grimace faces. And so that makes them the authority on everything, I guess.
Colleagues of ours here at NBC News were as well. And Pete Hegseth's name was nowhere to be seen. And it was a surprise announcement when he turned to him because nobody had anticipated that. And now Donald Trump is the one bearing the consequences of his judgment and his haste in which he made that decision.
What's interesting is that Donald Trump described to the degree he had a guiding philosophy in 2016 for picking a cabinet as choosing, quote, all the best people. It's not anything he's said about any of these people. And he does seem to be for this, as you, in your words, band of brothers, until he's not. I mean, we haven't heard Matt Gaetz. I mean, his only job today is as a cameo offering. He's for people until he isn't. And I wonder what you sense, and as sort of someone who knows Trump and knows what sort of the push.
Hold on. So which one is it, Nicole Grimace? Is it that he has loyalists? Is it that he just always wants the best TV personalities? Or is it that he's actually picking the best people for the jobs? And see, the thing that Trump is so good at is taking in new information and making a new decision. If he gets new information and he finds out somebody's not good fit for the job, then no. Then they're not going to be a good fit for the job. See, Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care. He cares, but he doesn't care if you're his friend, if you've been in politics a long time. If you're not doing a good job, you're out of here, whether you're his employee or whether you're working in government or whatever it is. But if you are doing a good job, he's going to be very loyal in support of that person and that job. That's how he operates. It's called integrity, Nicole.
If you have any sense of what trajectory this nomination's on.
This is also, to kind of answer your question, Nicole, is oftentimes I've been having conversations around who comes next and who comes in year 3 and year 4 of the Trump administration. Because as you said, this is not 2017. Donald Trump, the pool of people that he has to choose from is very, very, very small because he is looking for people that are loyal, that he has full faith and confidence will do whatever he says that he wants them to do. In the case of Pete Hegseth, what he wants to see the military do. And then you also are looking for people that he respects. That's also a small pool of people.
It's hilarious. They really have nothing to go on with this stuff. They're really digging up anything. That's why I believe Trump doesn't want to do FBI background checks. But believe me, they're still getting checked. They're getting background checks. It's just maybe not going through the way that they want it to. They want them to go through background checks through, MSNBC and Nicole Wallace. But that's not going to happen. But I'm more interested in what you think. Do you think Hegseth would be a good Secretary of Defense? Okay. So now we've heard from all the Grimace team on MSNBC, CNN, The View, everybody, right, that is mainstream media who we already know is going to hate everybody. I mean, literally, Jesus Christ would not be good enough for these people, right? They would have hung him on the cross. I mean, 'tis the season. That's how they think of anybody that Trump is going to pick. But now let's hear from somebody who actually knows Pete Hegseth. In an interview, the first interview Hegseth has given since this whole scandal has arose. Let's listen to him and Megyn Kelly, who actually know each other. Let's see how they.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Today, an MK Show exclusive, Pete Hegseth, nominee for Secretary of Defense, sits down with yours truly in an exclusive and his first interview after being nominated and after the allegations against him have been swirling and being launched from virtually every corner of the mainstream media, which clearly does not want him to have this job. Pete and I go way back. I've told you this before. We worked together on Fox News for a number of years. He became a contributor with my full endorsement and backing, and we became friends while I was at Fox. And I haven't spent a lot of time with Pete over the last 10 years or so, but I've long respected him and his service to the country. How's it going with Trump right now? Is he so far standing by you, and have you spoken to him?
I spoke to him this morning, Megyn. I mean, he's amazing. He's a fighter. He's been through this himself. And he told me the last thing he said to me, well, two things he said to me when I left his office when he chose me was, well, besides what he said about being a warfighter, we can get into that, was you're going to need to be tough as shit. You're going to need to be tough as shit. But he paused again as I was walking away and said, but you're the man for this moment. I chose you because you're the guy that's going to put the warfighters first. We haven't had that. We need a guy that's kicked down doors and understands the consequences of war and why us deterring war, fighting it, and winning it is important to him. He gets it. And we can get into the policy of all of that. But ultimately, he reiterated the same thing this morning. Hey, Pete, I got your back. It's a fight. They're coming after you. Get after it. I think he'll be delighted that we're talking today. Yeah. And we're going to do more talking because for so long, what was said about me, what has been said about me, it was so ridiculous and all anonymous that we didn't want to give it oxygen. You don't want to respond to things that don't merit response. And so we have it. But sitting here with you and going forward, the media is driving with this ridiculous narrative. It's our time to stand up and tell the truth and our side. And he knows that. And so he supports me. I won't betray what we talked about specifically, but he said, you go out and meet those senators and I've got your back. It means a lot to me. Tells you who that guy is.
So you are meeting with them. Any open wobbliness there? How do you like your chances right now?
I mean, Donald Trump won overwhelmingly, 76 million votes. He's got 53 senators, all of which understand what the American people voted for. They voted for the change that Donald Trump is going to bring. Mm-hmm. And they knew in the picks that he's made, he's bringing in change agents, another general or another admiral or an executive or a CEO or a politician or a lawyer to run the Defense Department. We've tried that before. He said, I want a warfighter. I want lethality, lethality, lethality. I want readiness, accountability, standards, warfighting. Pete, that's you, that's me, clean house of the woke crap. All that stuff, all the climate stuff and the CRT and the DEI and the genderism and get rid of it. Let's bring the Pentagon back to the people, the people's Pentagon for warfighters. And that's the message he gave to me that I've projected back to senators, and it resonates. Mm-hmm. When I get a chance to sit down, especially with these senators from the Senate Armed Services Committee, that's the committee I'm talking to, they care about the military a lot.
Already, I like him. I mean, I've seen him before, but I think neither one of them are grimacing or have that we're higher and holier than anything, right? It's this humility and honesty and straightforwardness that Trump sees in people, and then he appoints them. Also because he knows that they can do the job, whether or not they've done that specific job before or not. He knows. He can see talent in people. That's why he was so good on Apprentice. That show was fantastic. But of course, they don't want to give him any credit, and they don't want to give anybody any credit. And so when Trump says to Pete Hegseth, you have to be tough as shit, I mean, that is the truth. That is the absolute truth. I mean, we've learned that you can't even have an opinion in this climate anymore because they will just knock you down. They'll strip your business from you. But that's all changing. Thank God. Because freedom of speech is actually coming back where you can actually voice what you think and have dialogue with people. And I think even some of the really good Democrats voted for Trump because they're tired of it. I know lifelong Democrats who finally woke up in this election and they're like, wait a second, we've been lied to. Trump is a good man. He's an honest man. He's not racist. He's not misogynistic. He's not sexist. He's not whatever they've called him and labeled him as, right? He's a human being who's capable and strong and sturdy. And yeah, he likes loyal people. That should be a good thing. That should be celebrated. And that's what we need. And that's what he's doing. Let's watch some more.
They've run for office, spent their lives trying to invest in it. So the advise and consent process is a real thing. Like I'm hearing from these men and women, these senators who have great ideas, want to make sure that when I'm confirmed, we're able to implement them at the Defense Department.
They're worried about the military and the country and not necessarily your love life.
No.
Or your mom.
Or my mom, who did a fantastic job on Fox and Friends.
We're going to show some of it.
That is exactly right. They're going to attack your family, your friends. They're going to investigate everybody. When my dad, when I was 2 years old, he ran for Congress and he almost won. This is a man who built himself up from the bootstraps. I mean, he slept on newspapers as a kid, lived on the wrong side of the railroad tracks 100 times, and he built himself up. He recently passed this year. God bless my dad, Gene Hutchison. That's why I started this, the Hutchison House. I'm going to almost start tearing up because they came out with allegations against him in the same way. I was too young to remember because I was 2 years old, but my oldest brother, who's 12 years older than me, he said it was horrifying. He said people would come and investigate at our home, at his school. He was a little kid, and they would come and talk to him and investigate. They interviewed my mom. They were looking for any and everything. And then Pat Schroeder found some gambling things and some things that where he owed like a dollar or something ridiculous. It was like $100 or something to the IRS, something just such a moot point, but they stirred that up. And back, in the 70s, he didn't have time to retaliate because media wouldn't cover him. And so then he lost the election. That is how dirty politics is, but it's gotten way worse now. I mean, obviously. Let's listen to the clip where Pete Hegseth's mom talks about that email that they've all been blasting her for, and somebody leaked it. I mean, that's dirty right there, leaking an email from 2018. Have you ever said something that you regret? I know I have. So let's see what she says in response to that email that was leaked.
If we all went back 7 years, we would see that maybe we were not the people we are today. And I'm sure many of you across the country understand how difficult divorce is on a family. There's emotions. We say things. And I wrote that in haste. I wrote that with deep emotions. I wrote that out of love. And about 2 hours later, I retracted it with an apology email, but nobody's seen that. I want to say something about the media. And part of today is to discredit the media and how they operate. When they contact you, I let a few phone calls go, but then they call you and say they threaten you. That's the first thing they do. They say, unless you make a statement, we will publish it as is. And I think that's a despicable way to treat anyone. Threats are dangerous. I don't think the way you operate it feels almost criminal when reporters call you and threaten you. I don't think a lot of people know that's the way they operate. And they don't care who they hurt, families, children.
By the way, you'd be surprised how little that has come up. Now, when they ask, I answer candidly. I don't answer these questions to the hyenas in the hallway trying to chirp at my wife and I as we walk down the hallway. I don't owe them an answer. I owe an answer to the members of the United States Senate who are going to vote for a confirmation here. And my meetings with them have been fantastic. No one has looked me in the eye and say, I have concerns and I can't vote for you. In fact, most have said, let's take a picture and I'm behind you all the way. And that's a reflection of Donald Trump and the strength of his election, but also the mandate to change something at the Defense Department. So the meetings have been great. We're going to continue doing it. We're not backing down one bit.
We're going to get into the specific allegations, but let me start with this. Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd right now?
I had a member not 45 minutes ago look me in the eye in private, just he and I, and say, that's what they're trying to do to you. That's what they're trying to do to you. That's their playbook. Get ready for more. And they're going to make it up, just like they have so far. All anonymous, all innuendo, all rumor, nothing sourced, no verification, and they're just going to keep doing it because you're a threat to them. You're a threat to their system. You're a threat to all the things in Washington, D.C., the swamp, the things that people have rejected. You're a threat to that. And so they're coming after you. And I know that. He knows that. And when you stand firm on that, it's not difficult to just continue to fight. So, yeah, we saw what happened, but guess what happened? Kavanaugh stood up and he fought and he won. And hopefully Republicans have learned that lesson.
And Trump stood by him.
And Trump stood by him. What you're seeing right now with me is the art of the smear. It is the classic art of the smear. Ever tiny kernels of truth, and there are tiny, tiny ones in there, and blow them up into.
I've said this many times before, but this is exactly what narcissists do. I have another channel, Leah Marlene 111, that I've talked a lot about spiritual awakening and narcissism and meditations. It's a very confusing channel, but if you want to go check that out, I talk at length about narcissists because unfortunately I've experienced many of them, because they target good people. They hate good people, and they hate it if you have been knocked down by them for you to keep getting up. That's why they hate Donald Trump, because he has come back from bankruptcy. He has come back 6 times over. They've tried to knock him down and he just pops back up. Narcissists don't like that. So what they do is they try to defame and smear. I really am convinced that mainstream media is just chock full of narcissists. They even have that narcissist smirk. I mean, they're always just smirking. And no, not everybody that disagrees with you is a narcissist, but people who do this, people who go out of their way and do the art of the smear, I believe are narcissists.
To a masquerade of a narrative about somebody that I am definitely not. And what they never quote, and we'll get into this too, are the legions of people from who I served with in combat, multiple tours, from the multiple veterans organizations that I very proudly ran, and I really want to get into that, and my time at Fox News. They never asked the people closest to me.
No.
They never asked the people who were involved directly. And when they do, and I've got a list right here of people, and Will Kane and my hosts at Fox News have come out, all the folks on Fox Friends have all come out and said, this is not Pete. And we've worked with Pete for 10 years, every single morning, every single day. They never ask those people.
Yeah.
And that's what a smear looks like.
That's exactly right. Of course, they never ask those people. We're going to check in with The View in a second, because we're going to just hear how they exactly say that. I mean, Joy even admits, I don't want to talk to people if I don't like them, because then I might like them. Well, then you might change your mind. And that's not a good, I mean, she calls herself a journalist. I use the term loosely, especially with the cast of The View. I don't really think they're journalists, but they like to think of themselves as journalists, which is funny. Sunny Hostin even thinks she's a journalist. It's like, no, you're not a journalist when you won't talk to people. They're even smearing, Joe Schmo from the Morning Joe show or whatever that is, because he talked to him. They're like, why are you normalizing Trump? I've said this in a video yesterday. Look, somebody's either going to expose themselves as being normal, whatever normal is anyway. Nobody's really normal, but people are weird. We're all weird. It's called the human condition. We're born weird. But nonetheless, if somebody talks and you get to know them, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that's a really cool person, that's a great thing. But that's not of their mindset. They think, don't talk to them, because otherwise the smear campaign won't work. I mean, that's exactly how narcissists work. That's how bullies work. Do not talk to that nerdy kid, or do not talk to whoever, because we decided, because they did something that we didn't like and we can't control them. So we have to smear them. This has happened to me in my own business with people who I hired, who I liked, but they were jealous of me and they told me that themselves. And so then they tried to smear me, and they did successfully in some ways, because I have an acting studio and theater, and these girls, they point blank told me that they were jealous of me. And one girl in her amends program in AA came back and told me, she said, I told students lies about you. And I said, why would you do that? She said, well, I was jealous of you. I'm like, but I'm paying your paycheck. Why would you want me to lose students? And they didn't even know I wasn't even earning an income at the time. I was paying them everything. So they were hurting all of us, but they don't care. They literally, people like that don't care. They don't look at the big picture. They're very egotistical. They're all about revenge. And that's why they keep saying Trump is on a revenge tour, because that's what they do. They're constantly projecting what they do.
It's a couple anonymous nuggets, usually from disgruntled people who are fired for cause, who are jealous or want a little bit of retribution. And so they peddle stuff to reporters who are not interested in the truth. They're interested in smearing someone who supports Donald Trump's agenda. Mm-hmm. It's really clear. I'm in the middle of it. But, I'm surrounded by a great team. I got a wonderful wife. We love this country. We love Jesus Christ, our Savior. And we're going to fight like hell. There's no reason to back down. Why would we back down?
That's right.
Do you know how many guys I'm hearing from right now? The guys I serve with, gals that I work with at CVA and elsewhere. Don't stop. The guys are like, it's always sir, don't stop, sir. Please keep going.
They're behind you.
You are fighting for us. Like, you are our voice. We've never had a voice like this before.
They're not upset about your drinking.
You know what? There's an interesting one there. First of all, I've never had a drinking problem. No one's ever approached me and said, oh, you should really look at getting help for a drink. Never. I've never sought counseling, never sought help. I respect and appreciate people who do. But, what do guys do when they come back from war oftentimes? Have some beers. How do you deal with the demons you see on the battlefield? Sometimes it's with a bottle. Unfortunately, tragically, for too many guys, it's with the bottle, and then it's depression and even worse, suicide. I mean, we've got an epidemic of that in our country. Thank God, by the grace of God, I found my chapters of purpose that pulled me out of that. I found, in many ways, I found two things, my two J's. My Jenny, my wife Jennifer, changed my life, saved me. There's just no doubt about it. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And without those two J's, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. But with those two J's, Mom said this morning, and I didn't get a chance to see all of it, but God bless my mom, I'm a very different person than I was 10 years ago.
That's also why they hate him, because he's pro-family, gives credit to his wife. He gives credit to Jesus Christ. I mean, you're not allowed to mention these things, right? According to the left. They're all inclusive unless you talk about God, unless you talk about family, unless you talk about traditional values. And then you're a racist, misogynist, whatever, all the things, right? They want to smear you because they want to break up the family. They really do. It's sad, but true. They want control. And so it's this divide and conquer. If they can break up the family, if they can break up your belief in God, that's a win for them, because then you're easier to manipulate. That's the truth. I think that Pete Hegseth is a stand-up guy. I mean, just from this little bit, I really feel that he's sincere and genuine. I think that he's a good man for the job. I know a lot of veterans. I've worked with a lot of veterans, and some of them do. They have a lot of PTSD. They get very depressed. My dad, he came back from the Vietnam War. And after the election, he was fine until after the election where he ran on the Republican ticket. They smeared him, and it was devastating. And he began drinking a bit. And then he had other people targeting him because he was that kind of Donald Trump guy who just kept marching forward. His whole motto was keep on keeping on, kept marching forward. And people kept trying to tear him down. And it's not an excuse, but through all his PTSD and not getting any kind of therapy, because nobody did that back then, especially, he started drinking. He turned to Jack Daniels. And I think that he could have been president of the United States like Trump if he hadn't turned to drinking. And it's really sad when people do, but that does happen. And I'm glad that Pete Hegseth recognizes that, yeah, he was drinking, but it wasn't like this major thing. And, a lot of people can attest to that. And some people do end up having a major, major problem. But I take him for his word. And I think he's being really honest here. I'll link this entire video in the description so that you can watch the whole thing. But I already get a great sense from him. I think that he would make a great Secretary of Defense. I think that they're just attacking him the way that they do, the way that narcissists do. And now let's check in with The View for a minute and just see how they think about talking to people that they disagree with their journalistic integrity. I mean, it's just total BS. Now, I think some people are waking up, like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, who, I'm not like huge fans of them, but at least they're smart enough to know we need to have dialogue. We need to talk to people. And Joe Schmo of the Morning Joe Schmo Show, right? I mean, they did this whole apology thing, and they're very like, we talked to Trump and we're sorry, but we just feel like we should probably talk to him. Well, yes, you should talk to him. And Whoopi won't even say his name. I mean, that's talk about journalistic integrity. I mean, give me a break. But let's hear what they have to say about this whole situation.
Thank goodness. It's a holiday loving bunch. So let's tell you what's going on in the world. As a lot of Americans figure out how to handle the next 4 years, tech multi-billionaires Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg say they're going to work with incoming administration. And earlier this month, MSNBC's Joe Scarborough and Minka Brzezinski responded to all the backlash over their trip down to see you-know-who at Mar-a-Lago. Take a look.
You'll be smarter, and you have been over the last several weeks because of what we talked about with Donald Trump for an hour and a half. We got information on where they're going, and I do report that, just like great reporters at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, just like they do it. And again, yet to talk to a journalist, said, oh, you shouldn't talk to the president on background. And again, the complaint that we said he was a fascist, that he talked like a fascist. Yeah, he did during the campaign. Guess what?
We're watching.
Guess what? That means it's even more important we go there.
The meeting that we went to was not kissing the ring or bending the knee or all your other ridiculous headlines. It was a serious meeting. And quite frankly, if we hadn't told anyone about it, if we hadn't shared it with our viewers to be transparent, and that was our call because it was a meeting on background, nobody would have known about it. Nobody would have. We weren't flouncing in there and doing a big show of it. This was a private meeting on background.
They lose credibility for me just right there. Why go on background? Why not just put the cameras up? And because they're scared. In my opinion, I think they're scared that they might actually like him. They're scared that there's going to be some actual knowledge there. They're scared of that. And now they're in defense of it. We're real journalists. We're real journalists. No, a real journalist, in my opinion, would have documented that. Why in the world? What are you so scared of? I mean, really, they're so scared that the truth will be exposed. And really that they're going to be exposed for all their lies, calling him a fascist and all these things. These are not true. And just like Pete Hegseth said, anybody in his close circle wouldn't say that about him, right? Anybody in his close circle who's still, with him doesn't talk about Trump like that, doesn't talk about Pete Hegseth like that. None of my close circle, my friends and family talk about me the way that the gossip train was talking about me. Anybody knows that. Anybody with common sense knows that. And yeah, people can turn on you. People can turn on you for money. Like, hey, if say you're famous and then so-and-so from high school all of a sudden has a story about you because they were paid $1 million from whoever, right? A lot of people will turn their back for money. And it's a sad, sad thing. But if these people really had journalistic integrity, they would just air it. They would just show what the meeting was about.
Is opening a dialogue the best move here?
No. Well, can I just say Merry Christmas? I'm so excited for this.
This set is beautiful.
This is one I have really strong feelings.
No, Alyssa, you're not allowed to say Merry Christmas. Remember, they canceled that years ago. But now they're trying to act like, oh, yeah, we have Christmas. Their set does look beautiful. I will give them that. The set of The View, whoever the set designers are, you did a great job. It looks beautiful. Can you design my set?
Thing that you have to do, and to take it to a really extreme place, and I'm in no way comparing Donald Trump. I also worked in diplomacy. I was at the Department of Defense.
Another job.
I also worked for the vice president. We literally sat down with the Taliban in Afghanistan. We were trying to reach a peace negotiation. The idea that dialogue is a bad thing doesn't matter. It doesn't work on the world stage.
No,
I'm not. I would never. But it's just to say the idea dialogue is so important in fraught times, and when people are not saying eye to eye, and I think you absolutely have to have that conversation.
I agree.
And that's the other thing that they've never understood about Donald Trump when he talks to Putin or different, leaders all around the world. As president, mainstream media, you do need to talk to people all over the world, especially people that you disagree with. This is something that is so important to do. It doesn't mean that you're best friends. It doesn't even mean that you agree with some of these people, but you have to be able to have dialogue. That is what a good negotiator does. That is what a good businessman does. That is what a good president does. That's what a good journalist does. That's what a good human being does, in my opinion. You talk to people. You don't just shun somebody because somebody told you something about them that you don't like.
I agree with that to some extent. I do. And Bob Woodward never sat down with Nixon, just FYI. And he reported on Nixon from an objective point of view.
Right.
But
that's legitimately the source.
Okay, so let's hear now Joy talk about how she doesn't want to talk to people who she's decided she doesn't like because she might change her mind. Now, we already know, she talks about George Bush, and we already know that he's been exposed, unfortunately, because I actually liked the guy at first, and then it turned out to be a bad actor. But, to the point of just talking to people because you might change your mind, that is so silly.
Having with it is that there's a certain feeling that they're normalizing him, and he's not normal. He's a very unusual case. He's a TV.
Yes, he's extremely successful in many areas. He's extremely successful at speaking. He's extremely successful at negotiating. He's a successful politician. He's a successful businessman. He's a successful entrepreneur. I mean, it goes on and on. That is unusual because a lot of people don't do much of anything, or they're just given things, but not Donald Trump. And he's worked for all these things. He might have, look, even if you're given $1 million, it doesn't even more than that, right? I know his dad was very, very wealthy as well. You can lose that really quickly. I mean, look at Hunter Biden.
The talk show host, whatever it was, that show he did.
The Apprentice.
Yeah, that's it. And he became a president based on a lot of lies.
He became president based on a lot of lies that Obama and the Clintons were saying. And so people saw through that and they're like, oh yeah, we don't want lies. We want the truth. We want Donald Trump. So in a way she's telling the truth, but I know that's not what she meant. I know.
So I don't think that it's just that they're going down to talk to him like they talked to the Taliban. I don't think so.
But respectfully.
And by the way,
no, not Donald Trump. You can't talk to Donald Trump, but you can talk to the Taliban. That's casual. That's cool, right, Joy? Joy is more in favor of the Taliban than Donald Trump. That is so insane. That is a threat to democracy.
I have a personal thing about this because when George W. Bush was in the White House, I knew that if I had a beer with the guy, I would like him.
Remember when we were talking about Vice President Harris not going to Joe Rogan because he wouldn't come to her? Sometimes people can't go to places.
Well, it wasn't because he couldn't come to her. It was because she couldn't fit into her schedule. But do you think they went down there just for...
She could have fit it in her schedule if she thought it was important. The reason why Kamala didn't, we already know, is because she would have been exposed. Because in a 3-hour conversation, she can't hide. And they had asked, Rogan has already responded to these allegations about, what was the real deal. And he said they wanted it edited. There were all these guardrails, and he didn't want that. He just wanted to talk to her. He said he didn't have to even talk politics. He just wanted to talk to her. And that's how scared they were of having her exposed. And she was even in Texas. And that's when he said, I'll do it at 3 a.m. I'll do it on your schedule. I'll do it anytime. Trump did it before a rally. 3 hours he talked to Rogan. Didn't even go to the restroom, Rogan said, or have a glass of water for 3 hours. If you want to do something, you will do it. If you want to meet with somebody, you will. And now, of course, in hindsight, she's kicking herself because it was 50 million viewer opportunity for her. But also probably would have hurt her anyway. I don't think it would have really helped her. But they're just, of course, making up lies. That's their whole thing is don't talk to somebody if you disagree with them. What do you think? Do you think that you should talk to people if you disagree with them? What do you think about Pete Hegseth? I'm really interested to know what you think, if you think that he would make a great Secretary of Defense. And also, if you're curious to see Whoopi flirting with Charlemagne, I mean, she actually called him her new, partner. It was very weird. If you want to see that, then watch this video right now.